twist, wants to throw over the middle, caught at the 40-yard line. Olave still moving. Olave with the burst.
Able to escape and able to find Chris Olave. Olave able to stay on his feet and able to score it.
What's going on, Washington Commanders Nation? Per usual, it's your guy Rio back with another one on the Rambling with Rio YouTube channel where we keep content churning left and right. And today I got my boy Josh Taylor of the Takeover Pods Network, key content contributor and writer for Fansided's Riggo's Rag. What's going on, my boy?
It's been a while, Rio, man. It's been too long, man. I mean, I remember us chopping up at training camp. That's when, like, everything started taking off, it seems like, for both of us.
Yeah.
And then we just hit the ground running, always putting out content, both of us. Obviously, y'all been watching Rio stuff. He's the #1 Washington content creator right now, and I don't see that changing anytime soon.
Bless your heart, man. Bless your I love this stuff, man.
Like AB said, business is booming.
Hell yeah. Hey, we working out here. I see you grinding out the college stuff. You had your interview with a prospect the other day. You want to plug the channel real quick before we get going?
Yeah, so I sat down with DeMarco Jackson, great middle linebacker. He would be an awesome fit for Washington. He played there for 4 years, played a ton of special teams, great in coverage. But it's a Draft Takeover podcast on the Takeover Sports Network, like you said. The whole channel, we're all on the same channel. So we have NBA, SEC football. I do the draft. I mean, MLB, you name it. We have everything. So it's Takeover Sports Network. Check out the YouTube. Subscribe to it. It's on my page as well. And same with Riggo's Rad. Give them a follow. Read our articles. Got a lot of good writers in there. So.
Hell yeah, man. Before we get to it, man, this episode, like all episodes, is brought to you by Washington on the Daily on Instagram at WSH on the Daily. #1 source and hub for all things Washington Commanders. And this is also brought to you by BetUS Sportsbook and Casinos. Get your Calvin Ridley parlay poppy on with the best. BetUS Sportsbook. Bet safe, bet smart. And if you do it, use code JOIN125 and my unique link that will be in the description. We are 29 days away from the NFL draft.
Who's counting?
The start of the first round. Hell yeah, I need it, bro. I'm fiending.
I'm dying for it.
I'm fiending for the concept. The prospect that we're going to talk about today is someone I really feel strongly that could be the pick for us. A wide receiver. Do you feel like we have to go wide receiver at 11? What are your thoughts for our pick at 11 before we get into Olave?
I feel like you don't have to just because this wide receiver class is ridiculous. But still, you have to think about like how much of the difference is between a first round guy and a second round guy. Like if you think you can get, Jahan Dotson in the second and he's just as good as some of these other guys like Drake London, Garrett Wilson, which I don't think he is, even though I think he's really good. I just think these first round guys separate themselves. I think they're all tier 1. I think the tier 2, like I said, starts with maybe Jahan Dotson, Sky Moore, somewhere around that range. But these tier 1 guys, there's like 5. And I feel like you can rank all the top 5 in any order. And I'd be like, yeah, you're right. That's exactly how it is. You could put Olave, Drake London, Garrett Wilson, Trey Burke, and then Jameson Williams, literally in any order. And I've seen just about every single order so far this offseason, and I think you'd be right. But if Kyle Hamilton falls, like we've seen on Twitter, if Sauce Gardner falls to 11, you have to think about it. Because Imagine a dominant Sauce Gardner. People are like, well, where are we going to put him? We play a lot of 3 corners, and I get like St. Juste in the slot. Who knows what happens with Fuller? He played his best on the outside. Like I get it. Maybe Sauce Gardner wouldn't be the pick, but he's been the most locked down corner in college football the last like 2 years.
So you're Sauce over Stingley.
I am, and I know people are gonna say just because I'm an Alabama fan, but I've seen Stingley get burnt too many times, especially against Devontae Smith. And then he's had his injuries. I mean, he had one of the best freshman seasons out of any college football player I've seen in a long time.
Yeah.
Like, he killed it as a freshman at LSU. And then it's just every year it's been a slow decline because of his injuries and stuff like this. But I don't know. Like, right now, I've just seen more consistency and more dominance out of Sauce Gardner. I love his how physical he is at the line. He just locks dudes down. I mean, even against Alabama, he was locking down Jameson Williams. Like, it was he impressed the heck out of me. So I am Sauce Gardner, but I'm also Kyle Hamilton at 11 if he's there, because that dude is special. I don't see how he goes from like possibly the best at maybe 2 or 3 to now people are like, oh, it's a safety. He's going to fall to like 11, 12, 13. Like, just because he's a safety. Like, he's a game-changing defensive player.
Hell yeah, man. And just because he runs in a zigzag and has no sprinting technique.
That 40 was like this.
Yeah, like don't that time take it for the tape tells it all, man. We let the underwear Olympics cloud us, but someone who the tape or the combine did not let down is who the focus of today's episode is on. Mr. Chris Olave, number 2, Ohio State Buckeyes wide receiver, all-time leader in receiving touchdowns in the program, which says a lot because these dudes churn out wide receivers left and right. In a wide receiving room with Jackson Smith and Jigba and Garrett Wilson, Olave still thrived. Give me your take on Chris Olave and why he should be the pick at 11 for Washington.
So I did just write an article about this, and to me, there's a couple things. Obviously, like the specific fit with Washington of how close he is with Terry McLaurin. Like he talks about him all the time. He went as far, like in his senior goodbye, there's like a little paragraph that like the players write. He literally said, Terry McLaurin, and he was only with him for 1 year. He said, Terry McLaurin was the biggest impact I ever had at this university. Just being that mentor, kind of like what Curtis Samuel did to Terry McLaurin when he was at Ohio State. Like it was the same thing. Terry McLaurin was only with Curtis Samuel for 1 year and he mentored him up. And then you saw Terry do the same for Olave. So for me, like having that connection, like they know each other. They know how they're going to run each other's routes. They're going to come to training camp just like hitting the ground running. There's no like, so-and-so didn't look good. Curtis Samuel looked uncomfortable today, like running his route. It's not going to be none of that. It's going to be like, holy smokes, Chris Olave and Terry McLaurin were just spreading the field out in practice. And they would do the same on the field in game too. But with his game, and it really helps. If we were rolling out here with Taylor Heineke and all these other guys, I'd be like, man, I don't know about Olave. Just because he specializes in these deep, spreading the field, getting vertical plays. He can kill you short and stuff like that too, but he's not physical enough to like break tackles like Terry McLaurin does or like Garrett Wilson does. Mm-hmm. He's only 188 pounds. He's fast. He ran like a 4.39? 4.39. At first they came out and said he ran like a 4.26. 4.26. Yo. Added a whole tenth to it. So I knew it wasn't going to be that fast, but still he's fast. But for his size, you expect him to be like more shifty and have like more juke moves in his like after the catch abilities, but he doesn't. He just depends on getting his separation in his routes, and he's so good at that. So like there's not many
the
times
best in this class.
He's right there with Jameson Williams. Like I think, especially like getting deep. Like if you watch him score touchdowns, like he's just wide open deep whenever he scores. There's very few times where he has to be physical, which I think that is his biggest weakness is. Having to go up and catch it in traffic or having to fight hands with somebody. That's not his like biggest suit, but if you're not close to a DB, you don't have to worry about that because he's so refined in his routes. He can get separation in all 4, or I would say all 3 spots of a route, like your release, your stim, and your breaking point. When he breaks on a route, the DB is like flying past him. Like he has no clue what's going on. And like some wide receivers are fast on the line, but then they are so slow in their breaks and their stems, and it gives times for the DB to catch up. Like, all right, you had me beat for a second, but now I'm picking you off. He's just so good at every single aspect of a route. It just separates him to where he can get separation on anyone, whether it's man or it's, if press, if it's soft coverage, if it's bail, if it's off defense. Like he can thrive, and he knows his IQ is ridiculous. Like he can read a DB and be like, all right, this is exactly how I'm going to execute this route. And he kills it every time. So he does have his cons. And I think that's what people are most afraid of. Like, hey, he's not physical. He's not going to, because we've seen Terry, like the slant routes, like remember against the Eagles when he's taking it to the crib, he's breaking tackles. He's like fighting hands. Chris Olave is not that kind of guy. Yeah. He just has to have that separation and kill you with speed. So
hell yeah.
So for me, that's what it is. He's a speed demon.
So would you feel like 11 would be too early for him?
I don't think there's a such thing as drafting a wide receiver too early. Like, especially if he turns out to be like dominant. Like, what's the difference between drafting someone at 11 and like 16 or 17 or 18?
Exactly.
Like,
I think
nothing.
we get too wrapped up in the semantics of all of it. And like my pro comp, I'm interested to know what your pro comp. He gives me Calvin Ridley, Devontae Smith style, like in stature and in playing style, because his game is predicated on technician, route running, and intelligence. And I just feel like you pair that on the outside opposite Terry with Curtis on the inside, with Diami being the vertical deep threat we drafted him to be. I just feel like that's a great receiving room. I'd like to know your your pro comp for him, and I would like to know what do you feel about the people who feel that we have to draft a big body receiver because Wentz likes big body receivers? Like, I think that's a weird concept because he just throws to whoever's on the roster, and the best receivers on the team he played for just happen to be a big guy. I don't think it's
Pittman, I like Pittman a lot too. But for me, I think his pro comp, I think there's a lot of Ridley in his game. I think he's a mix of Ridley and Tyler Lockett. Because Tyler Lockett's not that physical guy, but he's just and he's not like, I don't think we've seen Tyler Lockett have to be a wide receiver one, but I think Tyler Lockett's even better when he has a DK Metcalf with him.
Hell yeah.
And that's the same thing. What I think Terry McLaurin with Chris Olave, Chris could be that wide receiver too. He's not depending on being that one and winning at all three aspects and, breaking tackles after the catch, being that kind of guy. He can be the wide receiver too that just takes the top off. Like, you remember these plays with Lockett. I mean, for Christ, like, Russell Wilson loved that dude. Like, Lockett helped him get to the Super Bowl before. Like, he had made some crazy deep catches. He has that separation. He has great footwork, beautiful routes. Like, I love Tyler Lockett's game, but I see a lot of Chris Olave in that. I think they're about the same size too, right under 6'1", 188, somewhere in that range. But
that's a great comp.
I think Ridley and Lockett, and there's nothing wrong with that. Like, I get it. Burks can be a wide receiver one because he's a bigger body dude. Drake London's a physical after the catch guy. Like, that dude just runs people over. And that's the thing. Like, that's what's so beautiful about this wide receiver class is you can literally say, this is the kind of wide receiver I want. And you can get one in the first round and it could be killer for you. If you want a big dude, you want a physical guy, you want a crisp route runner like Chris Olave, he's going to, take the top off, but he's also going to get separation on short, intermediate, stuff like that, but just don't expect him to be, breaking like 3 tackles and taking it to the crib like we've seen Terry do. He's going to depend more on his agility, and that's what he needs to work on the most is like being able to, like Jerry Jeudy, for instance. That dude after the catch is filthy. Dude, he can juke out anybody. So, like, I think that's what Olave really needs to work on is being more elusive after the catch. I think he was actually one of the worst yak wide receivers in the class, which is kind of concerning. I think he's like 25th or something around that range for yards after the catch as a wide receiver. But, like, if you watch his touchdowns, he's 40, 50 yards downfield, wide open, catching touchdowns. So you're going to win some, you're going to lose some regardless. But I love his game. And if you said he's a Tyler Lockett of the future, I'd be like, absolutely. And we'd have 3 Ohio State wide receivers with Curtis Samuel, Terry McLaurin, and Chris Olave, and they all know each other. They all have a relationship together. There's nothing wrong with that.
Hell yeah, the cohesion, camaraderie of it would be great. And I'm cool with adding as much technician. Like, he breaks like his game is predicated on breaking down corners, stemming his routes. Like, you can't have too much of that on your roster. Like, we can't pigeonhole ourselves into saying we have to take a receiver that's a certain size. And I'm very interested to see how this wide receiver class plays out. I saw Matt Miller, my guy at NFL Draft Scout today, tweeted this out. Conversation with a high-level NFL scout this morning. Those Ohio State wide receivers are going to go a lot earlier than people think. Both of them. How do you compare? I want you to power rank these 3 players, and I want you to differentiate, juxtapose their games. Jamison Williams, Garrett Wilson, Chris Olave. Power rank them and tell me, compare and contrast what their games are.
You're killing me because I love Jamison. So I think Garrett Wilson's my wide receiver one.
Even with healthy Jamison Williams.
Yeah. I think Jameson's still raw. And I think he still has and that's what's dangerous. Like, this is not the best Jamison Williams. Like, his route running is gorgeous. His twitch is ridiculous. I think he would throw his hat in for best route runner with Chris Olave. I think Olave has a little bit of an edge on him just because I think that Jamison can be even better, which is crazy. Post ACL, whatever. I think he's going to be fine. But for me, like, Garrett Wilson can literally do it all. I think he has the opportunity to he can play like Terry McLaurin, but I think he can be even better, which is crazy. Like, the dude's contested catching ability. I shared it today. I think it was 2019, the Fiesta Bowl against Clemson. The dude literally cleared an entire player to go up and catch a ball. Like, dead stopped his route. I want to see what his vertical is, because it's got to be like 60, 65. Like, he jumped out of the gym. Like, obviously, he's not going to be that high.
crazy.
But the dude cleared a DB, like, almost completely. Like, almost was standing on his shoulders to catch a ball. He can catch anything. Like, he can go up and get his catch radius is ridiculous. Like I said, Olave, he's not too much of like a snatch grabber, like go up in the air and get it and bring it down kind of guy. Like, you don't have to hit him in the body, but like, it's got to be in a good spot. But like, you want to hit Olave in stride. That's where he just pops off, takes the top off defense in stride. Garrett Wilson can grab a ball, snatch it, bring it back, like, and look at what he needs to do, break tackles, knock dudes over, find the open lanes. Like, he's just gorgeous after the catch. He does everything really well. But Jameson, man, he's got these little legs. I get it. But that dude is quick. That dude is so fast that, like, I don't know. I'm so stuck between Olave and Jameson, just because they play a lot alike. But like I said, I just think Jameson can get a little better. I think there's still so much to be, said. And it's funny because they were all in the same wide receiver room together. Jameson leaves and has one of the best wide receiver seasons by a college player. And obviously, Devontae Smith has that crown. But dude just popped off. Like, can you imagine him just sitting on the bench and like this gem comes out of nowhere, goes to Alabama, tears it up. But still, like, Olave and Wilson had each other. Some people say it's a bad thing because they help spread the field. Like, oh, well, all the attention's on Garrett Wilson. Of course, Chris Olave popped off, or like vice versa. Or that, it's just not a fair playing field. But at the same time, it's like, dude, Garrett Wilson had all these targets and Chris Olave still broke all these records, still had all these yards. So I feel like it can both, go both ways. But for me, I just something special about that duo. And then, like you said, and Jigba's coming out soon too. Like, that guy might be even better.
I know, this is the hell did they have?
He's a creative, like when you create a character on NCAA and like you've been playing with him for like 10 years, that's him. Like, he's just maxed out everything. Like, that dude's gonna be crazy next year.
How the hell do they have Njigba, Jameson Williams, Olave, and Wilson all in one?
And Marvin Harrison Jr. too.
Yeah, man, this is insane. Like, and for those people who like to harp on that certain thing, why didn't Jameson Williams get on the field in Ohio State? It just wasn't a good fit there. Was it an injury? Like, what was it? Well, like, why couldn't he get on the field as a Buckeye?
I mean, because you had Garrett Wilson, and you had Chris Olave. Like, there's only so much. And with the transfer portal, I mean, everybody's in it. Like, I'm probably in the portal, don't even know it. It's all about playing time. And for him, like, he just didn't get that opportunity because Chris Olave and Garrett Wilson were dominant. Obviously, Terry McLaurin before. Like, they've always had just a loaded wide receiver room. And then, like I said, Smith and Jigba, like, they knew how good he is too. Jameson Williams got some reps, especially on special teams. Like, he's really good on special teams. But he just saw an opportunity at Alabama with us pushing out all these first-round wide receivers as well. And he said, hey, this is a good opportunity. I've got a dominant quarterback and go play with Bryce Young. And we can put up some big numbers. And sure enough, he had one of the best wide receivers season, like I said, with Jordan Addison out of Pitt. And then Bryce Young won the Heisman. So it's just seeing that opportunity for 1 year, took a big risk, and it paid off for him.
Hell yeah, man. You love to see it, man. You definitely love to see it. But wide receiver at 11 is definitely something I'm looking at for this team this year, man. What you got coming on your channel? What kind of articles you got coming? Any more prospect interviews you got coming anytime soon?
Yeah, I got a couple lined up, a couple wide receivers, another linebacker, edge guy coming up. I think he's next. But just talking to prospects, like I said, the draft is soon. It's coming up. We've got a lot of videos. Like I said, just follow the page. But my question for you real quick. We talked about wide receiver at 11. You brought up a good point with Atlanta. Do you think they spoil the party, or do you think like the Washington kind of holds the cards with wide receiver?
I hope they take Drake of London, but because I'm not as high on Drake of London as everybody else. No. I'm gonna do a video on that actually too, because I think I'm sleep on Drake of London. He looks like a tight end playing receiver to me. But I think
what about Kyle Pitso?
I know. I think Atlanta's gonna take Garrett Wilson at 8. And that's going to start the wide receiver show. And then the Jets could end up messing it up for us at 10. But I want a receiver at 11, man. Like, I know we've put so much into this defense over the year. We went all in for a quarterback. Now give him every reason to succeed here. And I want a receiver there. Ron looks like he loves this dude Olave.
Dude,
Like
I wouldn't be surprised if he was at like his nephew's birthday party last weekend, because they're always together. They've had a lot of meetings with them. I mean, not only like the combine, pro days, like Ron was like, every time Olave caught a ball, he was just like, Hurdy, Mayhew, they were in the background just watching. I think they love Wilson too. I think they love Wilson.
And I think like Wilson gives me Odell vibes, and Olave, Ron he just seems like a Ron guy. He seems like a nice cliche, yes sir, no sir type
Clean
guy.
cut.
All Olave got to do is tell Riverboat, my uncle was in the military, and it's a wrap.
He turned his card in already. We trading up to 7 just to get him.
He has military background, man. This guy here, he's special, man. I really believe it, man. I believe that. Okay?
He's from Norfolk. He's from the DMV. That's the only thing he's missing is being from Maryland.
Hell yeah! Oh my God, that's Dan. That's Dan's fetish right there. That's what Dan the dweeb fetishizes, man. You from the DMV, you could come play for the Commanders. But before you go, I want you to be as harsh as possible. I was just messing around on the mock draft machine. Okay. I did a full mock for the Commanders. Let me know what you think of this mock right here.
Oh, my God. So you traded back.
I traded back with the Ravens. The Ravens traded to 11 and gave me 11 and 76 to get Kyle Hamilton. And I took Olave at 14.
Which could absolutely, that absolutely would happen trading up for Kyle Hamilton. So Chris Olave at 14, obviously gorgeous. Chad Muma at 47, fills so many needs at linebacker, and he's just a great player. Isaiah Likely, that's my dude. Shout out to Coastal. Sean's up. Vertical tight end, we need one so bad. Like Isaiah Likely would help spread the field even more. It would be ridiculous on this offense. And then Nick Cross, big time safety out of Maryland. Washington's been all over that guy, and apparently we're holding like an open pro day at the stadium or something like that, and he's invited to it. He's probably going to be there. So
get a local one. Yep.
Sounds good. Yep. DMV guy goes to Maryland. Hassan Haskins would be legit at 189. I've been telling people, like, we need a running back so bad. Even if J.D. McKissick came back, that had zero effect on needing another running back. I'm sorry, Jared Patterson, but, like, he's absolutely disposable.
I'm gonna keep it a buck on the last 2 picks. I don't know who the hell they are.
I don't know. You know me. I was going to roast the heck. I've done so many mock drafts, and I still have no idea who Josh Blackwell and Zach Van Valkenburg is. I'm surprised I even pronounced that right.
I just felt like I wanted a corner and an edge, and we selected. I'm not even going to pretend to be McShay, Matt Miller, or Kuiper. You know what I'm saying? I just felt positional need at that point. How would you rank this draft, man?
I mean, it's good. Like it's not even just like needs at position. I believe like that would be also like best players available. Isaiah Likely is probably going early 2nd round now.
I think Nick Cross is going to go earlier than that too.
I think so too. But like if that was to happen, I would take it all day. You can keep the last 2 dudes to save a roster spot. But send it to the practice squad. But I mean, nah, dude, like Nick Cross, we need another big hard-hitting safety like him. I think he can, he has good range. But man, Isaiah Likely, that dude's wild. Like I love
McBride. McBride. He was off the board though.
Oh yeah. He might be the first tight end. Jalen Watermeyer out of Texas A&M was like borderline 1 or 2, and since the combine, he's dropped to like round 5 somehow.
Because he's slow as shit.
But like his game translates so well. Like tape don't lie. That's one thing that drives me nuts is how much numbers can kill a guy that you've been watching for 4 years and he just dominates. Like Kyle Hamilton has been the best safety prospect since like Sean Taylor, and then he runs one line for 40 yards. Everyone's like, "Oh nope, hell no, I'm out."
He ran like 20 lines. Like
put him on a treadmill and let him run a 40. He'd be right.
Run like an alligator, man. That shit was crazy, man. We put too much in these players running around with a thong in Indianapolis. Man.
I hate it.
But yo, I appreciate chopping it up with you again, my boy. Like I said, go ahead and promote your social media, your stuff, and we can get out of here, man.
Yep. Follow me on Twitter at Josh Taylor CFB. And then follow the podcast channels at Draft Takeover Pod. Like I said, follow along on YouTube. I got a lot of player interviews coming up, some other mock drafts with some other teams. You know, I would do the Packers next. What that look like without Devontae Adams? They would love Chris Olave. Packers fans love Chris Olave. It ain't gonna happen though. He's not getting that far. Y'all better pull some crazy Jordan Love mess and trade up for no reason and just get Olave at like that's somewhere in the teens, because I don't think he gets past 15. Like I genuinely think if I had to put money $100 right now, Chris Olave is a pick at 11.
I think so too. I think if I had to put money on it, I think that's the pick as well. But that's going to close us out for the day. Follow your boy at Rio_Robinson91. Join the Ramblers, Rambling with Rio. We're going up. The next mark is 4,000 subscribers. Let's get there.
Get it next week.
Hell to you, Washington Commanders. Take command. Deuces.